In my hands is the very first UL2252 certified Tesla adapter. It's from Amphenol. We're going to take a look at all the details about this adapter, go into why the UL certification is so important, and talk about the current competition that's out there and why it's important to go with something that's UL certified. So let's go. So it's just literally just click it on. I always double check, make sure it doesn't come back off, and then plug in. So it's going to start charging in a second. It goes blue. That means it's made the initial connection, and then any second now it should start flashing as it is, and that generally means initializing charge. It is now charging. Hi, I'm Patrick and I'm with the Mach-E vlog. I am very excited to bring this to you today. This is a pre-production unit, but it is UL certified, the very first UL certified Tesla adapter, which is very exciting. If you are not familiar with what UL certification is, it's from Underwriters Laboratories. They set the certification standards on a lot of different things, including like the connectors and a lot of basically electronic equipment that's in your house and a lot of other things. And getting that certification is expensive. And the reason why is because they have a very strict testing guideline, and it costs a lot of money to make sure that it's tested to that standard. We look at a lot of like home chargers, for example, and a lot of the home chargers that we get contacted to review, they're like UL compliant or some other like terminology. Like UL compliant doesn't mean it's UL tested and certified, and this is UL certified. Now let's go into some of the basics of this. First of all, it's going to be tested and certified up to 380 amps. That's going to be like the biggest thing that a lot of people are going to be talking about, is like it's only 380 amps. 1,000 volts, 380 amps. A lot of the other adapters that you see out there are saying that they are certified, or not certified, but they're rated up to 500 amps. And that's just sort of, first of all, it's not been tested by UL, and they're sort of getting around some of the language that's in the UL certification, because they're doing stuff like it's 500 amps for a few minutes and then it drops down to 350 amps. They're also using liquid cooled cables instead of dry cables or non-liquid cooled cables. This is certified using a dry cable, which is what's in the UL certification. And what that means is like you don't get the benefits of having whatever Tesla cable is plugged in being liquid cooled, because that can help get rid of some of the heat that's in here. It's sort of like they're testing it under the worst conditions in a way. They're testing it without liquid cooled cables, and I've seen some of the testing reports. They're basically doing like multiple 30-minute sessions repeatedly to see how well this handles that type of power going through it. So it's just very critical that you go with something that's UL certified, and very cool that Amphenol has gotten this certification. I'm gonna go ahead and set this down as we start just talking about that. If you haven't heard of Amphenol, there's a lot of companies that are out there that you may or may not have heard of, and it's just maybe another name that you're like, I don't know who is who. Well, let me just say, like, Amphenol is huge. They have like over $15 billion in revenue last year. If you used a DC fast charger, you've probably used some of their parts. A lot of DC fast chargers that are out there use Amphenol parts throughout. A lot of the connectors on the CCS, like from Electrify America, a lot of times they're Amphenol connectors. So it's just a company that you may not really know, but you've used a lot. Very trustworthy company. And that also, like, they're also very big, which comes up to one of the points about this is they were looking at making this in China, but because of the tariffs and the stuff that's going on with that seems to be changing day by day, they are a big company. They have other manufacturing facilities. So they're looking at other options to bring this to market. They were hoping to have it to market, I believe in May, and that may be delayed 1 to 2 months because they're shifting where they're making these. And of course, again, the tariffs are changing day by day. So who knows? But yeah, Amphenol is a big company. I trust them. I trust their equipment. They're very solid. I spoke with Mariano Rigatti. I've seen him for years. EV Charging Summit, Consumer Electronics Show. He's always around. If you see him, if you ever run into him, he probably has a backpack and he probably has adapters and stuff in his backpack because it's his life. He's very, very up to date on like all of this stuff. Amphenol was had a lot of input when they were doing the UL 2252 certification review process. They're always looking for companies and people that are experts to like give input when they're setting a standard like that. And I know Amphenol was one of the companies that had a lot of input. This one in particular, of course, it looks very familiar to you that have the original Tesla adapter, sort of almost the same form factor. And we'll just start with this is the Tesla one, and we'll just go into some of the things about this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way back over to the Amphenol and sort of just review like some of what we already know about the adapters. Now, first of all, the one thing about this is like this is the lightest adapter of all the ones that we're going to talk about today. And the release mechanism is right here to get the Tesla cable out, and you sort of got to like pull that way, and it makes it a little bit of an awkward thing to get the Tesla connector out of this. So that's my only big complaint about this adapter. The other thing is like this metal up here gets very hot. This metal over here is looks a little bit fragile, but it is metal, so I think it could take some drop tests. But it is, you know, just your, you know, this is the first adapter. One of the things, let me see here if you can hear this. It always felt sort of like cheap and hollow, but it was the first adapter. We've used this quite a bit with our Mach-E, and when, you know, I've taken it and used it like on our Equinox. We went to North Carolina, we had a Ford F-150 Lightning. We've used it on that. Like we've used it on multiple vehicles with no issues whatsoever. It's been great. The next adapter that we'll just briefly talk about, and this one feels heavy. This is from A to Z. This is the Typhoon Pro. They had a Typhoon. They actually recalled that or pulled that one out of production and replaced it with the Typhoon Pro with some differences compared to that first one. As you can see, it's like they've sort of protect the latch over here. There's a lever here. And one of the things that's really unique about the Typhoon Pro is like if you push this and then push it like a little bit extra hard, it also releases the little latch that's inside that's holding the Tesla connector in. So it's basically one button to disconnect from the car, push it a little bit more, and then it disconnects the Tesla connector. So the other thing that if you notice about this is like it also has like fake J1772 pins inside. Those are not necessary. Because with any of these adapters, they only work with superchargers. They do not work with J1772 level 2 chargers. So that's sort of an interesting thing about that. But this has been one of my favorite designs, and I sort of just like the gun type handle over here, just very easy to grip it and hold it. Put a lot of, you know, if I need to put a lot of force to get it out, it's just sort of, it fits well in my hand, but it is really hefty, and that's one of the things that a lot of people have commented on. The next one that we'll talk about, of course, is the Lectron adapter. And you see this one doesn't have the J1772 pins, but you can see a rubber like orange adapter in there. I'm going to put that up close, see if you can see that. This is something that we've talked about with Mariano and others, is like you got to be careful about anything like this. It's a rubber adapter. It's not actually providing you much real benefit, but the issue is like if that rubber starts breaking down, then it can become an issue because you don't want to have any of that rubber disintegrate and then get, you know, like on one of the pins and create issues there. To release this one from the car, it's this one here, and then there's a button underneath that you use to get the Tesla connector. Not that bad. My only sort of complaint about that is that like when you're pulling it, it's like if you want to pull it away from the car, you end up sort of like hitting both buttons. Not that big of a deal. But overall, you know, it also has some heft to it. I weight all of them. At the end, I'll list the weight for all of them, and we'll talk about that. But another, you know, like gun one, not quite as, you know, the A to Z is like thin and then flares out. This is just sort of you know, one big thick end of it. Now I'm going to bring up this next one. I'm going to bring this up side by side because they're basically look almost identical, but they're not. This is the one from Ford and Lectron. They worked on it together. And I did a video when they announced that they had, Ford had finished shipping out all 140,000 adapters to customers, because one of the ways they got caught up was by switching over to this design from the Tesla design. And mostly, you know, that was because Tesla was having trouble getting them all shipped out to Ford and GM and others. So Ford was like, we got to find a different provider. They went with Lectron, but they wanted some changes done to the Lectron design. So even though they look almost identical, there's some subtle changes. This button here, like it all feels fairly similar, but it's just some slight feel difference between the designs. If you notice, that rubber gasket that I was talking about is not in this one, so that's been eliminated. And Ford also has some like footage of them doing like all of the testing, all of this, including stuff like running it over with the F-150 Lightning. So it seems like it's fairly durable. I think Tom Malogny did a video on this, and like he was saying, noticing like it looks like the hinge is more significant than in just the regular Lectron one. So like they beefed it up quite a bit. So all of these are pretty good so far, but it's still important to remember none of these are UL certified. The one from Tesla and the one from Tesla Ford Lectron, excuse me, those are authorized to be used on the Tesla Supercharger network, but the Lectron and the A to Z technically are not authorized to be used, and they are not UL certified. We've recommended, not really recommended, we've like provided information out there because that if you're going to buy one of those two. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of really bad designs that are out there. I'll add some screenshots up now of some of the ones that are on Amazon. Brandon Flash, we'll put a link to his video down in the description. He did a great video sort of looking at some of these poor designs that are available on Amazon. And yeah, you can save $50, but please don't look at it as this is the place where you want to save money. These designs are for, you know, just knockoff Chinese companies that just, they're making what they're going to call like UL compliant. They're going to just put out the specs, but you know, not going to see the testing reports. We had one company that reached out to us to review the adapter, and I was like, can I see your testing report? And they sent me the wrong testing report. And then I said, that's the wrong one. And like we had this whole thing back and forth. I don't think the thing has actually ever been tested, but they're like selling it on Amazon. I think it's a huge issue. And once we start seeing these out there and other certified adapters, I believe Amazon should pull any adapter that's not certified. And if you have one, I would say throw it away. Like literally, like right now, don't ever use one that's not certified, or, you know, if you have to, A to Z or Lectron. And it's sort of like a gray area. I'm not really wanting to recommend Lectron or A to Z, but they're at least decent companies that are trying to do the right thing. And I've seen some of their testing reports that was prior to UL 2252 becoming finalized. Now that it's finalized, they say that they're going to have their certification soon, but I bet I can almost 99.9% guarantee they are not going to be certified at 500 amps. They'll be 350 or 380 amps, just like this one from Amphenol. Now, let's go ahead and just talk about this one from Amphenol. Again, it looks very much like the Tesla one. The biggest difference that people will notice is like here is the latch to let go of the Tesla connector. So it's over here on the side, which is a bit easier to push down versus like trying to get your finger into like basically like a recessed hole area. So that's a bit easier. I like that a lot. It also, like if it's plugged into the car and actually charging, the car should be holding on to this and not letting you hit this button or this button. So it's sort of like it should be locked in there, and that's like part of the safety mechanisms. And then once you like pull this out, then you can disconnect the connector. You'll notice as well, like it's basically this is metal, but it's also protected here. So it looks like it should be very good in a drop test. Pre-production one that we're borrowing right now, so I cannot just go out and drop it and see how that will survive. But it looks like it's a very good design. Even in the snow and ice, if you're charging, the button here would be resistant to that. Like some of these others, it makes me a little bit worried about like if it's raining and snowy and icy and stuff. But with DC fast charging, it's not as big of a deal as like if you're doing a level 2 charge overnight where you get like 8 hours of snow versus just maybe 30 minutes. But otherwise, yeah, it looks just great. The extra pins aren't there for no reason. There's no gasket in there. So it's just really like overall a solid design and weighs quite a bit less than some of the others. It doesn't weigh as little as the one from Tesla, weighs a little bit more. And let me go ahead and bring up the weights of all of these, and we'll just go through and I'll put up each one. So the first one is the Tesla adapter. It's 1 pound, 11.4 ounces, and I used a scale to measure it. And I actually measured it in ounces, and then I took it off and then switched to grams and measured it. So these may not like translate exactly because I'm actually doing 2 different measurements. But anyways, 776 grams. Then the next one is the A to Z Typhoon Pro. That was 2 pounds, 7.7 ounces, or 1,126 grams. Then the next one I showed you was the Lectron Vortex, which is 2 pounds, 2 ounces, or 966 grams. So slightly, a few ounces less than the Typhoon Pro, but quite a bit heavier than the Tesla adapter. And then the Ford Lectron, this one sort of surprised me. It's actually an ounce less than just the Lectron Vortex adapter. And same thing, with the grams, it's like 30 grams less, so it's 936 grams. So I was a bit surprised that it was less than the Lectron Vortex, because Ford supposedly, made their changes and improvements. Seems like it's a bit beefier hinge, so I thought it might be slightly more, but pretty close, only 1 ounce difference. And then the Amphenol, it's 1 pound, 15.1 ounces, or 886 grams. So you can see it's getting very close to 2 pounds. It's quite a bit heftier than the Tesla adapter, but feels a lot less than like the Typhoon Pro that we've used quite a bit as well. So like we actually took it out and used it. When we were coming back from Las Vegas, we stopped at Barstow. We have a couple of videos. I'm not sure. No, we didn't do a video. We did a video going to Vegas on the way back. We just made this video that you're going to see now, where we actually tested it out and did a fairly deep charge from 2% up to, I believe, 90-some%. Let's watch the video and see right now. So this has been plugged in for almost an hour. We have gone from 2% up to 91% charge. So we've put 67 kilowatt hours of energy into the Mach-E. And just touching this, it actually all over feels cool to the touch. I can't find anything that I would say even was warm. I'm actually really surprised how cool it feels. I mean, of course, the cable here doesn't feel warm at all. And, it actually derated at 80%. It's still charging at like 40 kilowatts. When we initially plugged it in, it got up to the normal 159 kilowatts, and then tapered down. We actually went next door, ate, gave the car time, and I just wanted to sort of see how it is. I'm going to go ahead and unplug in a minute, and we'll wrap this part of it up.
And by the way, Patrick did say that we've been here for a very long time, but don't you worry, we are at the world's largest Tesla Supercharger. We actually have a separate video on that. As you can see, there's tons of room. Perfect place for a nice long charge.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and end this session so I can show you how to disconnect. Latch up here, it's a plastic button, a little bit snug because it's brand new. And then here's the key. This is how you get the Tesla connector. It's a little bit finicky. Let me try that again, because I don't know what the best way of getting that off, because you're pulling here. Yeah, it's not bad. not bad at all. Feels very secure. So again, just got to make sure it clicks and does it come back off, and then it's just plugging in. And I'm not going to actually plug it in because I don't want to start another charge. But very, very simple. That's the latch to get it off of the car, and then that's their button. Oh, you know what? There we go. That's a good way of doing it. So it's once it's clicked on, bring that down, and then pull it out. Not bad at all. Again, just sort of like nothing at all is even, I would say, even warm on this. Actually, right down here, I can feel a little bit of warmth, but it's like, it's about 73 degrees, and I'd say doesn't even feel like 80, 85 degrees. It feels really nice and cool.
Before we finish, I have to give this a try. If you guys don't know, I have some dexterity difficulties with my hands. I can only use these 2 fingers on my left hand, kind of sort of use the other fingers. So I really wanted to give this a try and see how it feels. So I haven't done this before. You're seeing intuitively what I'm going with. I'm grabbing it, pressing down. Ooh, okay, that was easy. That was easy. Okay, that was really easy. It's like you have to do a good little bit of pressure, but it's not bad at all. So I'm gonna try that one more time. We press the button on top to release it from the vehicle if we want to, but here, okay, that's great. I have to say, this is incredibly light. This is incredibly light.
It's light, and what do you think about the temperature? Because we just finished 67 kilowatt hours.
Fine. Amazing. Like, I feel like it's a teensy bit warm on the bottom. Not even. No, it's like,
yeah.
This feels like it was sitting on the counter. Also, like, I'm trying to indicate here, if I wasn't holding the cable right now, can you see that I'm sort of lifting it up with 2 fingers? That's how light it is. Like, it's extremely light. We should weigh them in comparison of all the adapters, because I think without question, this is the lightest one. So I'm voting for that. Let's see if I win a Coke.
So as you can see, the most impressive thing, even though it wasn't like a hot day, was how cool the adapter stayed during the testing. Out of all of these, and we weren't doing like a side-by-side test, by any means, but just from my experience over the past year of using Tesla Superchargers and all of these adapters, I've used all of them. This one just felt really cool, which I think is a great testament to the design of it. Charged just as fast as any of the other adapters, no limitations there. So I'm just really happy to see UL 2252 finally being finalized. It took a long time for that process, and happy to see our first UL 2252 certified adapter. Hopefully they'll be on the market within a couple of months. We'll do another update video as soon as they start selling. This is new territory for Amphenol of like making an adapter that will be sold directly to consumers versus selling as a first tier supplier to DC fast charging companies. So it's new territory for them, but they are a huge company, really confident that they will stand behind it, and really excited to see that this is the first of hopefully several UL 2252 certified adapters. Again, right now, go only with the adapter that is okayed by your OEM and Tesla. If you absolutely have to buy one, you can't wait, and you then by all means, A to Z and Lectron make a quality product. Not certified yet, but I have a feeling they will be certified relatively soon. But if you can at all wait, again, this is going to be like one of the gold standards. Quality product, quality company, and just really excited to see that these are finally making it out there. Now, one question that we've been asked before as well is like right now Tesla is saying like only the ones from us or from the OEM are authorized to be on the network. Will they say that for like the Amphenol adapter? You're not getting it from Ford or Chevy or Polestar or whoever. You're not getting it from Tesla. Will that be authorized on their network? And it's their network. They can say whatever they want, but I don't imagine that they will be able to deny something that's UL certified from using their network. So, I feel fairly confident that this is going to be one of the ways to go. And, if you get a chance, or if you can wait for this. do want to make some comments before we go, just in general about adapter safety and some other general, adapter things that people have talked to us about that get confused. I mentioned it briefly, but first of all, these adapters are only for superchargers. If you need a J1772 adapter, level 2 adapter, that'll be a different adapter than this. So yes, you may have to carry 2 adapters for using a Tesla destination and a Tesla supercharger. If you're only going to go with one, by all means, the supercharger adapter is way more critical than those level 2 adapters. And the other thing is like, whether it's the connector or the adapter or anything, if you notice anything even a little bit off, then just either move chargers or replace the adapter. Just throw it away. So if you have any of these adapters, even the one from Amphenol, and you notice that like every single time you charge is derated, just throw it away. Get a new one. Like, you don't want to mess around at all. It's also not a bad idea to like visually inspect it. And I don't mean you have to like, get your microscope out or not binoculars, magnifying glass, and inspect every little thing. But like, if you notice like the connector is, acting a little bit funny, or there's debris in here, it's just like, just do a quick test. I know like for us, like we keep ours in the door of the car. And then, there's, every once in a while, there may be dust or debris or something like that. Always want to check these out. And then also goes for the actual charging stations as well. The only time that we've really had, or one of the only times that we had an issue at a Tesla supercharger, is because the connector was damaged. So the best thing to do is like just completely ignore that. If you can report it, I think there's a way to report it in the Tesla app with other charge point operators. There's ways to report damage to connectors, but don't risk it. Just move over to a different adapter. There's tons of safety mechanisms to protect you and protect the car from any issues like that. But just don't risk it. Like, just move over. Don't trust a broken adapter. Don't trust a broken connector, or even if it just looks a little bit rough, just move on. So anyways, that's about it. Really fun stuff to see. Another step in our progression towards getting more charging reliability, getting more access to charging, is to have these adapters that are UL 2252 certified. We'll put some links down below to Amphenol if you are curious about the company. Once they have the product linked up, check the description. We'll have information on how to buy it. And just any other thing, relevant information that we can think of, we'll put down there. We're talking about this. Let me know if you think this is a good idea. Like, I may create like a hall of shame of adapters you shouldn't buy. And I'm sort of torn because I don't want to like provide affiliate links and stuff like that, or links to Amazon of like these adapters that you shouldn't buy and people accidentally use them. But I think it might be a good idea of like, let's identify these adapters that are using sort of shady language, like UL compliant, when it's not UL tested. Let me know what you think about that. If so, we can build that, and we'll take input from all of you guys out there to make sure that we're being safe. But we'll also create the Hall of Fame of the adapters that are certified and approved, because I think that's super critical, and we'll start distributing that and including it on all of our communications and websites. Anyways, I've been going on a lot longer than I expected on this. Want to thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. We'll cover Mach-E stuff, but also all this other cool EV and EV charging stuff. Thank you to our Patreon members. I'm going to lean back because we're going to have their names scrolling across the bottom. Thank you guys for supporting us. Some of you for over 3 years now, maybe over 4 years. I have to double check. Very appreciative of all the support that you've given us. We've also had YouTube memberships for over a year now. We've had some of you with us on the whole journey. If you want to join Patreon, information is down below. If you want to join YouTube, of course, the buttons are just right somewhere around here. You know how to do it. Again, thank you guys for supporting us. And as Liv would say, just remember, whatever you drive, whatever adapter you're using, as long as it's UL 2252 or Tesla authorized or Ford authorized or whatever, enjoy the ride. Bye.